Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make this narwhal plush out of fuzzy socks. To make this, you'll need basic sewing and needle felting skills. You'll also need one fuzzy sock in the color of your choice and a small piece of white sock for the belly. Here I'm using a leftover scrap from a previous project. Be sure that your socks are basic, run-of-the-mill fuzzy socks without any grips on the bottom or anything else. The rest of the supplies that I'll be using will be listed in the description box below. If this is your first fuzzy sock plush, there are a couple things you should know. First, you should always take into account the shape of the sock. We have the top of the sock, which sometimes has a differently textured cuff on it. In this case, mine has a strip of elastic. I rarely ever use this part of the sock. Next, we have the leg, which is ideal for cutting small pieces out of, like limbs or ears. The heel is the widest part of the sock, and it's probably the most useful. It's usually used for the bodies of animals, and in this project, it's going to be used for the body of the narwhal. Finally, we have the toe, which has a variety of uses. I sometimes find that cheaper quality socks have a really evident seam at the toe, which doesn't look very good on a finished plush, but we don't have to worry about that for this project because we're only using the heel. I didn't have to flip the sock inside out because there weren't any seams on the heel. However, if your sock has seams there, be sure to flip it so that the seams are facing outward for sewing. Turn the sock as shown so that the heel is facing upwards. Taking a felt tip marker like this Sharpie, fold the heel down and mark where it lines up on the sock. On the other side of the heel, draw out the shape of a narwhal using the center crease as a guide. Exaggerate the tail area a bit because some of the definition will be lost when we turn and stuff it. Here you can see how the heel will act as the body of the narwhal. Now I'm just going to thread the needle. Since the fabric these socks are made out of is really loosely woven, be sure to use a thicker thread and tie at least 4 knots. Now mark out a space for turning where you're not going to sew. Believe it or not, the best place to do this is directly where the face will be. This is because in any other spot, the narwhal's distinct shape will get distorted. You won't be able to see it on the finished piece because, another tip for you beginners out there, the fabric is really forgiving to sloppy stitching and seams because of how fluffy it is. Now we're just going to backstitch along the black line, making sure not to sew on the space we just marked out. Be sure to go over all the corners several times. Once you get back to the mark you made earlier, tie several knots and cut the thread. Now, using your fabric shears, cut out the shape with about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I just love the sound the shears make so much. Always save your scraps for a future project. You never know when you're going to need them. Leftover scrap from a previous project. Turn your piece, being careful of the raw edge. If you're having trouble turning the tail, use a skinny blunt object like a pencil to help poke out all the little corners. Then take a couple small wisps of toy stuffing to stuff in the tail. Now take a large ball and stuff the body. Use this opportunity to shape and sculpt it. Once you're satisfied with it, you could proceed to the next step. Be sure to tie more knots in your thread because we're only going through one layer of fabric, and as you can see here, I did not tie enough. After tying more, I was able to use a running stitch to close the gap. If you're unsure what a running stitch is, the best way I can describe it is as threading a drawstring bag. Make extremely large stitches and pull tight to close. Then make some more stitches over it to make sure that it's secure. Use a slip knot to fasten off the thread because although it's less secure, it's flatter and won't be as evident as a regular knot on the finished piece. Hide the ends in the body and trim the thread close to the fabric. Now we're going to needle felt the horn. I'm using white and pink wool, but you could use any colors you want. First, twist the ends together and felt them into place with your largest needle. Then wrap the two ends together as shown and felt into place. Once you've blocked in your basic shapes, you could switch to a finer needle to refine the details. I'm also using a punch tool, but it's not necessary. A regular felting needle will do. Usually in needle felting, the ends are left wispy so that they can be easily attached to other pieces. However, since we're sewing the horn onto the narwhal, we want to cut off the excess and felt it down. Here's the finished horn. Now we can sew the horn onto the body. Secure with a slip knot and hide the end. Next, curl the tail outwards and secure it with a couple of stitches. Mark out the placement of the eyes with a Sharpie. These eyes are glue-on with flat backs, however if you have bead eyes you could use those as well. I just superglued them on. Cut a length of black yarn or embroidery thread for the mouth. I had a lot of trouble threading the needle here, I don't know why. Once the needle was finally threaded, I tied a single knot at the end of the yarn. Next, enter through a place where the end won't be seen with your needle and sew on the mouth. out a circle from your white sock and whip stitch it to the belly. This step is completely optional, and I actually forgot about it until I was finished with the plush, so that's why I'm doing it now. It's probably better to do it right after you close up the body, but whatever. With that, our narwhal is finished. Please like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.